Hello, my loyal subjects. My name's King Wolfall, and welcome to my thoughts and recap for NXT Vengeance Day 2023. So overall, a pretty decent show, not an amazing show. I think at least one of the matches was a big letdown for me, but we'll get into that. I actually took notes this time, so I can remember all the things that went down. So we opened up with the North American title match. Wesley versus Dijak. Wesley entered first, and I hate when champions enter first. Champions should always be second. Your biggest star should always be second. If your star is bigger than your champion, then maybe, like when they have Brock Lesnar enter last in matches, is fine, but your champion traditionally should be entering last. Not really. So a lot of really good wrestling, but not a lot of like big amazing spots. There was some fun spots, like there was Wesley went to go Hurricane Rana Dijak off the top rope, and Dijak fully just dived headfirst into the mat, and I don't know if he was supposed to take a Hurricane Rana or take like a head bump, but he took a head bump. And then he took like a rolling senton, and then it was I thought that was it, and he kicked out at 2. The match went for a while. Got a "This is awesome" chant. I think after that spot actually. And then the finish was kind of wonky. So Dijak got Wesley on the outside, and he set him kind of. It was like the commentary like office chairs. Had the full arms, and he got a broom. And he stuck it in underneath the arms. Wesley couldn't get up, and then he got up on the top rope and decided, I'm gonna moonsault onto Wesley while Wesley's in this chair. And then Tony D'Angelo and Stacks, I can't remember the guy's actual ring name for the life of me right now, but his nickname is Stacks. So D'Angelo and Stacks came and pushed Wesley out the way, and like fully actually like pushed him out the way. Wesley was sitting in the chair, and they pushed him, and it kind of rolled and then fell over, and I was like, oh, that didn't look like fun for Wes. So they took the moonsault. Dijak and Wesley back in the ring. Wesley gets the pin, and he is still your North American champion. Sorry, I literally just woke up, and I gotta get this recorded before I get ready for work. Alright, so that's 0-1 for me on predictions. Women's tag team title match, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Fallon Henley and Kiana James. This was a fine match. I don't think it was a premium live event quality match, but it was not a bad match by any means. And it was fun to see Briggs and Jensen, Josh Briggs and Brooke Jensen, on the outside, just being really annoying throughout the match, which is it's always fun to have your manager just be annoying, because it's a good heel tactic. Being annoying is a great heel tactic. Commentary spent most of the match and the entrances hyping up that Katana Chance and Kaden Carter have held the tag belts longer than any women have ever held any tag belts in WWE, like both on main roster and on NXT. So because they kept bringing it up, it kind of telegraphed the fact that they were not going to be defending the night. If they had only brought it up once or twice, it would have been fine, but they kept talking about it. Too much talking when you wake up makes you young. But they just kept talking about it, and I was like, there's no way they defend now, right? And then they lost. It was a cool spot though, for the pin. So Kaden Carter was being pinned kind of in like powerbomb position on their back, like a roll up. And then I can't remember who got the pin and who was on the outside, but the person on the outside grabbed Kaden Carter's legs and just held them down where the ref couldn't see him. That she was kind of behind the ref, so she reached through the ropes and held Kaden Carter's legs down. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that in a tag match, but it was great. You got to be flexible to do that, but it worked out. So we have new women's tag team champions, which means I am 0-2 for predictions. Next, I have it in my notes because it felt kind of weird. So throughout the night, they were doing they were having like a video package. They do them a lot on premium live events now, where they do video packages for wrestlers that aren't on the show, just to make sure people watching, maybe this is the first PLE they watched in a long time, maybe they're just getting back into wrestling or just getting into wrestling, so they have promo packages to show off some of the other wrestlers that aren't on the show. And they had one for Cora Jade and Lyra Valkyria, because they're feuding at the moment. And the Lyra Valkyria promo package, she said she was just going to murder Cora Jade. She said Cora Jade was going to perish. So yeah, don't murder your coworkers. It's not good for you, even in wrestling. Like, this is not Lucha Underground or Impact. You can't just kill people to end your feuds. So yeah, that was weird. Paprika. Boring. Probably another cat near the door. After that, we had Apollo Crews versus Carmelo Hayes, 2 out of 3 falls, and this match was the match that really disappointed me. It started so well, and then it just went downhill. So Trick Williams comes out and gives Carmelo Hayes a really cool entrance where he's like running down his NXT accolades, and behind him on the Titantron, banners are coming up with like North American, 2-time North American champion, unified the Cruiserweight Championship, War Games winner. So like these were like you know, the banners inside like schools and like university like gyms, where it's like, we won a wrestling tournament or a basketball tournament 80 years ago, but we aren't good enough to have more recent banners. But look at these accolades we got a bunch of time ago. It was like kind of like that. But it was really cool. And then Carmelo Hayes comes out, he has the Apollo Crews shirt, takes it off, stomps on it, and then Apollo Crews got a video package where, hey Paprika, Apollo Crews got a video package where it was showing like, former US champion, former Intercontinental champion, etc., etc. And then he comes out, does his entrance. I had like a really big fight feel. Like, it felt important. It felt like this should have been match of the night. Felt like it could have main evented with the presentation. And then it was just weirdly booked. We'll put it that way. So it had a really fun back and forth at the beginning of the match. Lots of high impact moves. It went like a lot, like the first fall went a lot longer than I was expecting. And then Apollo Crews submitted to a crossface. The baby face of the feud lost the first fall to a submission. That's really weird to me. I think submission victories over baby faces should be after they've been like dominated, or like the end of a match. And it should be like heartbreaking to watch them tap out. So watching a babyface tap out for the first fall of a 2 out of 3 falls match is weird to me personally. That's like how I like would book a match. Like, that doesn't sit right with me. But the first third was very, very good. At some point during the second fall, Apollo Crews hit Carmelo Hayes with a front flip DDT, kind of like a Canadian Destroyer, but like DDT, and it was great. Dude, I really think he should use that as like a regular signature move that could like potentially end a match, or someone should use it as a finish, because it just looked awesome. At some point, yeah, so the end sequence was where things kind of devolved, and I got really disappointed with how this match went. So Trick Williams removed a turnbuckle pad while the ref was distracted. Obviously that backfires. Carmelo Hayes ends up getting whipped into the turnbuckle. And then at some point, so Trick Williams started trying to get into the ring with a chair, and of all people, Dabba-Kato comes out, and I wasn't sure if he was going to be called Aziz or Dabba-Kato or Babatunde, but I think on the official YouTube video of the event, he was called Dabba-Kato, so he's Dabba-Kato again. Comes out, stops Trick Williams from interfering, high fives Apollo Crews, and then Apollo Crews takes nothing but net and takes the pinfall to get swept by Carmelo Hayes, because why not? So yeah, Dabba-Kato fully came out to help Apollo Crews, and then Apollo Crews just lost, which fully telegraphs that Dabba-Kato was going to attack Apollo Crews after the match. This whole match was just so weirdly booked, and you can have the Dabba-Kato interference or the Dabba-Kato return or whatever he's gonna do without fully telegraphing that he's gonna turn on Apollo Crews, but just having him be there and not really help. I mean, he helped because he stopped Trick Williams, but honestly, it didn't really help Apollo Crews, because if Trick Williams hit Apollo with a chair, then he would have gained a fall by disqualification, which means it would be 1-1. So all he did really was distract Apollo Crews and cost him the match, which meant, oh, obviously Dabba-Kato is about to turn on Apollo Crews immediately. So they're hugging in the middle of the ring, and then Dabba-Kato beats him up. So yeah, this was just really weirdly booked, but at the very least, Carmelo Hayes won, and I predicted that, so that's 1 out of 3. Haha, yay me. We get a backstage segment with Brooks, Jensen, James, and Henley. They're celebrating backstage, and Kiana James and Fallon Henley are like actually like buddy now. They're like, oh look, we're champions, that's awesome. So looks like they're actually going to fully get along from now on. Maybe we'll see if there's more like tension between them, because I think it would be a cool fun storyline. If it depends on how far you want Brooks and Jensen to go as a tag team, because I personally am a big fan of Josh Briggs and think he could be a big single star one day. I don't know a ton about Brooks Jensen. I haven't really watched a lot of his matches, but I've seen Josh Briggs wrestle like on the indies, and he's a really fun wrestler. And I think having James and Henley like lose the tag belts and like start feuding and having that tear apart Brooks and Jensen could be a fun storyline. But we'll have to see. After that, yeah, the NXT tag title match, which I thought was match of the night. It was a very good tag match. Despite the fact that they did the stupid version of the Fatal 4-Way tag match, where it's only 2 people in the ring at once, so 2 teams just don't have a member wrestling at any given point. And then this type of match always devolves into everyone fighting around the ring, and then whoever the first 2 people to get in the ring are now the legal man, because the ref can't be bothered to remember who the legal men were, which would be easier to keep track of if there was one person from each team in the ring, like a proper Fatal 4-Way. But it is what it is. Throughout the match, Thea Hale was just going ballistic, which was really fun to watch. At one point, Pretty Deadly are on the outside, and they're like running around the ring, and Thea Hale just held the megaphone up and screamed into it. Didn't yell didn't say anything. She just screeched into it, and both of the Pretty Deadly both took a full bump on the outside. It was great. I wrote Thea Hale's beyond hyped and I love it. Crappy Fatal 4-Way rules. We're only 2 members in at once. There was a really fun spot where so Andre Chase was on the top rope. There was a group of wrestlers down below, and Kofi tried to run up to him, and he got pushed off into him. So a bunch of people took a bump, and then Kit Wilson got up to fight Andre Chase. And I thought, oh, so Kit Wilson's going to get Andre Chase in the ring, and then they're going to have a back and forth. And then no, Andre Chase just superplexed Kit Wilson to the outside into the group of people, which is a really fun spot. Oh yeah, immediately after this spot, everyone just kind of stays on the outside and starts killing each other and trying to put each other through the announce table, like a bunch of people were trying to get apologies. Bunch of people were trying to put each other through the announce table, which was really fun. And then Pretty Deadly put the announce table back together and apologized to the announce team, and then got back in the ring, which is genius heel work, because I think Booker even said it. This is my thought process, and I think Booker even said it on the mic when it happened. And he was like, yeah, don't give the people what they want. You're the heel. Like, well, he didn't say you're the heel. He said don't give the people what they want, because Booker T's, for the most part, a heel commentator on NXT. So in my thoughts, like ring psychology wise, is if you're a heel in a hardcore match, why would you use the weapons that the crowd want you to use? If you pull out a table and they're chanting for tables, don't put them through a table, because they're gonna cheer for the table spot. You're the bad guy. They shouldn't be cheering you. So it's just really smart ring work by Pretty Deadly to put the table back together the crowd booed relentlessly when they put the table back together. It's just proof it was good heel work. Not too soon after that, or not too long after that, Gallus ended up putting Duke Hudson through the table anyway. So we got the spot, and we got Pretty Deadly being fun heels. Not long after the table spot, Gallus win by pinning Xavier Woods like pretty cleanly. It was actually pretty surprising. I was thinking that if Gallus was going to win, that we would have Joe Coffey returning and interfering to help them win the match. That didn't happen. Also, I expected maybe a Pretty Deadly win, which also didn't happen. And also no Duke Hudson turn. So I fully crapped my pants with this prediction. Didn't get anything right. And I know the saying is crap the bed. However, it's not what I said. So we're gonna move on to the NXT Women's Title match. Roxanne Perez, Gigi Dolan, and JC Jane. My notes app automatically changed JC to Jack for some reason, so Jack Jane. So here's my big thing about this match. It was a good match, right? I really hate when tag teams feud over a singles title while remaining a tag team. I really hate it. Doesn't matter if it's a men's or women's tag team. I did not a fan. You can have tag team members go after singles belts without like putting tension on the tag team, especially in the women's tag division where you need all the tag teams you can get to stay tag teams to give some legitimacy to the tag division. So Toxic Attraction obviously before the match had put out like, oh yeah, we're gonna work together. No, you're not. You're eventually gonna turn like, this is how this match is gonna go. Everyone knew how this match was gonna go. Eventually they were gonna turn on each other and it was going to cost them the belt. Like everyone knew. The only team I think ever that successfully won a belt together was Lay Cool. And I think that was it. That was it. That was the one time they did it. So unless they were going to pull a Lay Cool and split the belt in half, which I think they were never going to do, it was what it was. I think if you're going to put a tag team in a title match like this, they have to make it abundantly clear that they're going to be fighting each other in the match, but that they're still friends no matter what happens. Like Shawn Michaels and Triple H once fought John Cena for the world title, and the match started with Shawn Michaels super kicking Triple H, because of course it did, because they're not there to be a tag team, they're there to win a singles title. So having a tag team in a triple threat match for a singles title is never my preference booking wise. You could have had her versus Gigi or JC and had the other on the outside in running interference, and you would have gotten pretty much the same result. There were some fun spots throughout the match though, and it was a good match. It was just, I don't like the booking of having a tag team fight for a singles belt personally. Toxic Attraction entered together, which is just a nice little touch, because obviously they said they were working together, so why would they not come out together? That makes sense. Very early on in the match, they already start arguing, and Roxanne Perez goes for a baseball slide to the outside, and Gigi Dolan pulls JC Jane in front of the baseball slide, and then it's like, all right, cool. So they've already turned on each other. This is going great. They stopped each other. They both stopped each other from pinning Roxanne, who was pretty much like fully knocked out. Like one of them could have won the match, but they turned on each other because obviously that's how that was gonna go. I wrote right here. So there was a one point they were all fighting, and there was a dueling chant for Gigi and Roxanne, Gigi and Roxanne. They went, "Let's go Gigi, let's go Roxy, let's go Gigi, let's go Roxy." And I just wrote on here, "Sorry, JC," because no one was cheering for her. It was just Gigi and Roxy, and no one was cheering for JC. So JC is the biggest heel in this match. It was a really fun spot where they both super kicked Roxy together, and then like Glasgow Kiss like headbutted each other, slapped their legs for a nice loud cracking sound, and then they fell on top of Roxanne Perez, and Roxanne had to kick out of 2 pinfall attempts at the same time, which is that was fun, because that's also a tease that like, what if they both win the belt? Are they going to go the late cool route? JC and GG set up a table on the outside because it's a triple threat match, which means no disqualification, usually. And then the ending sequence ended up being Roxanne was on the top rope. Trying to set JC up for something. I think she was actually just getting on the top. And then GG on the apron tried to get to her and got kicked off through the table. And then JC came up to try and get her off the top rope. And Roxanne hit a Pop Rocks off the top to get the 1, 2, 3. Still champion. And we'll have to see on NXT whether Toxic Attraction hate each other now. Yeah, so that's actually no, that's 2 correct. I thought I only had 1 correct. I had 2 correct because I predicted Roxanne defending. NXT Championship match, Steel Cage. Now, this had all the potential in the world to be match of the night. Braun Breaker and Grayson Waller are future stars as long as they keep on the path that they're on. However, I think this fell kind of flat for me, personally. I was really hoping for a Grayson Waller victory because I was really hoping to see Braun Breaker move up to the main roster sooner rather than later. And he might still, with how things end, how the night ended, he might still move up to the main roster soon. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Grayson Waller moves up to the main roster instead of feuding. Like, he could honestly go feud with Wesley for the North American title now. But I could see him moving right up to the main roster because he's an excellent heel. And he feels like both him and Braun Breaker feel more like main roster characters than NXT characters, personally, if that makes sense to you guys. Some people know what I mean by that. They feel different. They feel main roster ready. So does Carmelo Hayes. And those are like 3 of my favorite guys on NXT. And they're like top of the card usually. So we'll get to that. So they announced that it was going to be pinfall or submission only inside the cage. So it was Shawn Michaels had said like this match has to end one way or other. So it was pinfall or submission inside the cage, nothing else. Waller entered having like a chainmail headpiece like Scott Steiner, ripped it off like immediately, and he got a really fun entrance. So it was a bunch of pretty ladies. One with a golden shoe on like a pillow, and then saw another with champagne because he was like, I'm gonna celebrate my NXT title win with a shoey. So he brought all his celebration stuff with him to the ring, as a good heel should. Got in the ring. Braun Breaker did his entrance. There was a big old poster of Grayson Waller that he was breaking through, but when he broke through it, only half of it broke. So half of Grayson Waller's face was just behind him for the rest of his entrance. And he gets down to the ring, and Grayson Waller immediately smashes the cage door into his head and attacks him on the outside because Grayson Waller's smart and Braun Breaker is dumb but strong. So he starts fighting Braun. Braun starts fighting back, and Grayson Waller kind of fakes being fatigued up against the barricade. Braun goes for a spear, and Grayson Waller gets out the way and starts like Ric Flair strutting because he thinks Braun went through the barricade because he outsmarted Braun, but Braun stopped before he hit it. So Braun turns around and then just starts kicking the crap out of Grayson Waller on the outside, throws him in the ring, and does the everyone knows the Undertaker closing the cage door. He does that, and I think it worked for Braun Breaker because he's one of those like, I'm strong and I like to hurt people characters. So I think it worked. Where I have entered the cage because he's smarter than Braun and they went to kill each other. Bad idea. Braun murders Waller on the outside. Oh, crowd was hot for Braun Breaker the entire time. They were barking after pretty much everything he did for a good chunk of the match. And then at some point Waller took control of the match, and he started like high pitch like barking to mock the crowd and mock Braun Breaker, which was hilarious. The whole story of the match throughout the entire match was Grayson Waller is smart, Braun Breaker is strong. Grayson Waller knows he's not as strong as Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker needs to control his emotions. It was the story of the match, and it worked really well. So Grayson kept like, he would like get in between the ropes and the cage and just like looked groggy, and then as soon as Braun launched himself at him, he was getting out the way and getting in the ring and attacking him. So it was a lot of stuff like that, trying to climb up the cage so he can kick Braun Breaker down, which didn't really work out for him, but he tried it. So he spent the whole match out thinking Braun, while Braun spent the whole match trying to murder Grayson Waller. So the ending sequence is really fun. Grayson Waller tries to get up to the top of the cage for an elbow drop. Braun Breaker gets up, grabs him, superplexes him, which always looks more impressive pulling someone off the top of the cage, but it's still just a superplex. So he hits a superplex, hits a spear, pulls the straps down, starts screaming at Grayson Waller. So I'm thinking in my head, like, oh, awesome, Grayson Waller's gonna roll him up or like play possum and do something to him. And then no, Grayson Waller gets up to his knees and is like, looks like fully defeated. Says to Braun Breaker, like, do it, end me. And Braun Breaker hits the ropes, goes for a spear, and I'm like, Grayson Waller's got to do something here, right? No, he got a spear a full 2 feet across the ring. Dude went flying. One of the best spears I've seen in a while. I don't care for the fact that Braun uses a spear, and so does Roman, and so does Charlotte, I think. Like, a lot of people are using spears in the it's one thing to have a lot of people using spears, and Edge. So it's one thing to have a lot of people using spears in wrestling, but when you have like 4 different people finishing matches with spears on your roster, that's a problem. People need to start using different moves. I personally don't like when people share finishers. Like 1 or 2 people sharing a finisher is fine, but like when it's multiple people doing the same, which also, though, that does make sense in kayfabe terms. Like, if this, like, obviously, like, the RKO is a devastating finisher, why doesn't everyone just do the RKO? It makes some sense in kayfabe, but I'm not a fan of, like, people, like, movesets should be unique. And with Roman being the top guy on the main roster and Braun being the top guy on the NXT roster, there are so many matches ending in spears. But this one was fun. He speared him, like, literally like 2 feet across the ring, which is really fun to watch. So Braun defends the title, so that's another incorrect prediction for me. Gets up on top of the cage, starts celebrating. Carmelo Hayes comes out to stare him down. So that looks like that's going to be our stand and deliver title match, which I would hope, just like with this one, I was hoping Grayson Waller would win. I really hope Carmelo Hayes wins the belt, because I think it's time to bring Braun to the main roster, put him in a mid-card title feud. Who has the U.S. titles? Austin Theory right now. Give me Braun Breaker versus Austin Theory. I think they could have a good match together. Austin Theory would probably be carrying the promo battle, but I think if Braun was aptly prepared for the feud, he could have a fun feud with Austin Theory. So yeah, the pay-per-view ended with Braun celebrating, Carmelo Hayes coming out to stare him down. And that was NXT Vengeance Day 2023. I thought the Rumble was better, personally, which is weird because there was a whole era where NXT was the best show in wrestling. I just think a couple of these matches fell kind of flat, and 2 of them ended because of interference. And I think the 2 that ended with interference didn't need the interference. And the tag match didn't end with interference, and I think it would have made more sense to have interference in that match by Joe Coffey. But he's not around for whatever reason. I'm too lazy to do the research into why he's not, and why he's still suspended, even though the other 2 Gallus members aren't. Maybe it's because he's the leader. Maybe it's because he did something bad. I don't know. So yeah, not a bad show. Not a phenomenal show by any means, but not a bad PLE. I'm really bad at predicting NXT, so I should probably start watching the weekly show a little more often. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought about the show and what you thought about the matches, how you feel about the prospect of Braun and Grayson Waller, either of them moving up to the main roster, or Carmelo Hayes, because Carmelo Hayes is main roster ready as well. They're all 3 of them could potentially be world champions on the main roster, and I'm here for it. So let me know your opinions on those guys down below. Let me know your opinions on the show itself. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be good people, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.